In May 2011, two high school friends and self-identifying film buffs saw the movie Thor together in theaters. These men promptly went their separate ways and mysteriously didn't communicate for a decade. Today, still obsessed with movies, they reunite as podcasters of fortune with the mission to tackle the movies and debates they missed out on for 10 years. On this podcast, they are always catching up. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we made it to episode 2.
Episode 2, can you believe it? We told you that there was going to be another one, and we did not lie. So, yeah, sorry, have to have at least one drink while we're doing this podcast. So
yes, we are episode 2 of Catching Up with Aaron and Daniel.
Hey, we got it right that time.
We did. So, last time, if you joined us, we introduced ourselves a little bit, introduced the concept of the show, and then talked about Thor. And so this week's episode is X-Men First Class. But before we get into that, Aaron, since this is catching up, we should do, at least a little bit at the top of each show where we catch up a little bit with each other. I guess we just give each other one question, a burning question that we have for each other from the last 10 years.
All right, I'll let you go first on this one.
Okay, all right. Aaron, how'd you get into wrestling?
How'd I get into wrestling?
Yeah.
I went to, are you asking, how I got into wrestling as far as,
how you got into actually being a wrestler?
Okay. I moved to Louisville, Kentucky in 2012. And
really?
And trained at Ohio Valley Wrestling under Nick Dinsmore for a couple months. What's funny is, I know if you listen to this, you know that Daniel and I are both from Arkansas.
I'm originally from Texas.
Okay, but, so I moved there, and Petrino was still our head coach. And he had left Louisville, so I was taking a bunch of shit from them about that. And then the motorcycle accident happened while I was there, so then I even took more shit after that. And then I moved back to Arkansas, and then we don't have a winning season since I've come back to the state, other than last year and then this year as a podcast recording. So yeah. How did you get into NASCAR? Sorry, that's my dog going all around the place. We're at a new location, by the way. The last time we filmed, we were in the middle of my move. We are in my house right now because I am a homeowner. So
it's on the business card now.
Yes, yes, homeowner. I don't have. We talked about this. It's I'm a bartender. I don't have business cards. I'm not on LinkedIn or whatever the kids are doing these days. So no, I just sling drinks. But how'd you get into doing NASCAR?
Well, I mean, I've always been a NASCAR fan. I was raised as one since I was a wee pup.
So who was your guy? Was it Dale?
It was Dale.
It was Dale. Okay.
Yeah, it was Dale. Of course it was. But no. I mean, of course, I started out in theater. My freshman year of college at Arkansas State did theater.
Okay.
In high school, I was also on the Bulldog News and all that. I wrote movie reviews for the paper and all that. But so
Ghost Rider. All right. I'm probably the one person who remembers this, and will never let him live it down. Is recommending to all of our high school that they go check out the first Ghost Rider film with Nicolas Cage. I'm sorry.
It's hey, if you're going to be watching a movie on an afternoon, you need to waste a couple hours. You could do worse.
You could do a lot better too.
But anyway, I did that in theater at the same time in high school, and I went to Arkansas State University. And yeah, the first year and a half I majored in theater, and then I just came to realize that the theater life in college was not for me.
Okay.
And also I read the school paper in the sports section, and I read what they were writing in the sports section. I was like, I could do better than this.
Gotcha.
So, flash forward 3 years, I graduate with a degree in journalism, editorial, or whatever you want to call it. And then I went to grad school at Indianapolis University not Indianapolis University, Indiana University, and the campus I went to was in Indianapolis.
Okay.
For sports journalism graduate degree.
Did you ever go to St. Elmo's?
I passed by it,
Okay.
but I never went to it.
Okay.
But did that?
I was born in Indiana, so.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yep.
Like, we're in Indiana.
Maryville, like right next to Gary.
Okay.
So I've got a lot of friends in Lafayette.
Okay, cool. So I lived in Indianapolis for a year, going to grad school, doing all the stuff you do in grad school, covering events and stuff. Got to cover the Indianapolis 500, which was amazing. That specifically was the reason I even went to that program, was just to have the shot at covering the Indianapolis 500, and I got to do that. Then the work I did there helped me get an internship at Sporting News in Charlotte, and after 6 months there, came back here very briefly to Arkansas before I got contacted by NBC Sports asking me if I'd be interested in covering NASCAR, my favorite sport.
There you go.
So,
living the dream. No, but that's awesome, man. That you were able to do that for 6 years, and I'm sorry that it's you're stuck here potting with me, starting this venture, starting this venture now.
Yeah, 2 days ago was the 1 year anniversary of me being laid off. So, but I'm still doing stuff.
Yeah,
like this,
freelance stuff too.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, that's how I did it for 6 years. Writing online. So like, explain to me, like, why did you decide to actually become a wrestler? Like I think that's why. What my
well, I mean, we met in theater and everything, so that was the thing that I always enjoyed, performance based, and then I also like to think of myself as like somewhat athletic. So it was just one of those things where it was like the best of both worlds, getting to perform and also like do something that's athletic. So that's pretty much what I did, and I grew up watching it all the time. Like, it's all I wanted to do when I was little. So, and then being in high school, and that's what I told everybody I wanted to do. So, I got to actually do it for a little while.
Who was your wrestler?
Shawn Michaels was my guy for a really long time.
I have no idea that.
It's okay. It's okay. So he was my guy, and now I had my existential crisis last year during COVID, where I realized I was actually more of a Bret Hart guy after wrestling. So Bret Hart and Terry Funk. If you're listening to this, you probably have no idea who those guys are. But it is what it is. So, but this isn't a wrestling podcast.
No, it's not.
Or a NASCAR podcast.
No, it's not.
This is Catching Up with Aaron and Daniel, and we're going to talk about X-Men First Class right now.
All right. So, let's get in the time machine, Aaron.
Time machine.
And we're going to go back to May 25th, 2011.
I was there on opening day, and as I said on 2 weeks ago, I keep wanting to say last week and everything. I'm realizing that this is a every other week podcast, yeah. But I said that this was the movie that I saw the most at the movie theater, and the reason that this is the movie that I saw the most at the movie theater is because at the time when buying Blu-rays was prevalent, Fox did a special where I believe it was like at Walmart's and Best Buys. You can buy X-Men, X-Men 2, X-Men 3, and Wolverine Origins. And they were all $10 each, and they all came with a ticket. Mm-hmm. Like, you plug it in, and download it, and you get a free ticket to go see X-Men First Class. So there was 4 right there. And I saw this movie the day it came out, and then I really enjoyed it. So the next day I was like, hey, does anybody want to go see this with me? Because I had an extra ticket. And I go and meet some friends to find out later that they had already bought my ticket because they got there before I did. So I still had my remaining tickets. And then as I realized that it was getting closer to me, like, breaking my record of Jurassic Park at 6, I was like, hell, I'll watch this movie 7 times, and that's what I ended up doing. So 7 times X-Men First Class at the movie theater.
So I might have seen it at least twice in theaters, maybe. I'm not sure. Like I have somewhere in all my stuff, I have 2 books where I put like ticket stubs and stuff in it from all the movies that I saw.
I used to do that for a long time.
So yeah, at one point I put them all together and like I had like stubs from like 2007 up through right before COVID.
When did they really stop doing stubs and moving more towards like
here's your like also like just giving you a receipt. And that stuff like that. I feel like last 3 years. I mean something like that. Yeah, it's fairly recent.
I just started going to AMC and just having the QR code on my phone, so I stopped having stubs for quite a while now.
Yeah, I noticed when they started doing that. I was like, this isn't the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
But like, there was one point where I could just like point at a ticket stub and tell you who I saw that movie with and stuff like verbatim. I couldn't do that now.
No,
like I have no idea who I saw this movie with back in May of 2011.
For me, like if ticket stubs and just as we're going through this, it's just gonna be like, okay, which ex-girlfriend did I go and see this movie with? So that's one thing that's funny. I wasn't dating anybody at the time of X-Men First Class though, so this was just me going and being like, this is a really good movie. And at the time, this was the best X-Men movie.
Like before we get in the movie, okay. Let's do the same thing we did in the first episode. We'll set up a little bit of what was going on.
What was going on?
So in the movie news at the time, this is the week of May 25th. John Carter of Mars received a name change to simply John Carter.
Okay.
That was news that week.
Forever Dooming that film?
I never saw it.
My brother put it on. I haven't seen it like from start to finish either. My brother put it on one night when we were hanging out, and we were all just like trashed, and he was like, I'm gonna put this on, and then he ended up like going into the other room and just leaving it on with like me and like 3 of our other friends, and we're just like, where the hell did he go? Like what is going on? It's just, I mean, like it doesn't look like it's a bad movie. It just was one of those things where it's just like, can't believe they sunk this much money into this, and then literally just called it like John Carter. Like, okay.
So, I just remember when I saw the trailers for it, like it felt like I was watching like Attack of the Clones a little bit. It felt like
because the whole like arena bit.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It felt like it was straight out of Attack of the Clones. That was like my main takeaway from it.
I'm surprised you didn't go see it then.
There was nothing about it that really interested me. So
there you hear it. Nothing about Attack of the Clones interests Daniel McFadin.
Also that week, a movie we're going to be reviewing later in the show, In Time, the Justin Timberlake movie that it had 3 names. In its route to being released.
Okay, so I don't know anything. This movie has always just been In Time to me, so I'm curious what the name is.
So it was originally called I'm Mortal. Then it was called Now. And then the week that X-Men First Class came out, it was announced as having its final name, In Time.
Man, way to go, guys. Like, 3rd time's the charm, because those other names are horrible. Horrible. I didn't know that. So that reminds me of, I'm sure we're going to talk about it when it eventually comes up, the Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's the only one that I remember being like, oh, it like did the name change. Well, Harley Quinn too, the Birds of Prey movie that they did. They changed that name around, put like Harley Quinn at the focus of it. But no, I remember like it was Edge of Tomorrow, and then it became like Live, Die, Repeat.
On DVD, they changed it when it went to video.
Yeah,
that was bizarre. It's like
yeah.
Anyway, other news that week, it was announced that Benedict Cumberbatch would be in The Hobbit as Smaug.
Okay,
so I did see that movie.
Are we gonna review those movies?
Well, that's next. That's a 2012 movie. I think it was on the short list.
Okay,
so
like we're not gonna talk about these movies, but I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I absolutely love those movies. The Hobbit movies I saw once at the movie theater every single time. So I'm very curious if that ends up like being on this thing that we do on the catching up and rewatching that, because I cannot wait to let all of you know my opinions on the Hobbit movies. But no, that was a very good casting, and I did enjoy him as Smaug in the Hobbit.
I have never seen. I'm not a fan of Lord of the Rings, but I did see the Hobbit. So
Interesting.
I got forced into going to see it.
Okay.
So I'm not a fantasy fan.
Yeah.
Like that kind. Like I'll do Harry Potter, but that's kind of it for
I
me.
gotcha. Star Wars isn't fantasy to you?
I consider it sci-fi.
Okay.
They're flying in space, man.
All
There's
right.
laser swords.
Okay.
Right. And the final news item from the week of May 25th, 2011. I made this. It was a sign of the times. 3D trailers were released for Green Lantern and Transformers: Dark of the Moon. That
Okay,
week.
so I'm glad that you brought up like the 3D thing, because I remember when we were talking about Thor and like how it didn't look good in some of those scenes. Like Thor was a 3D movie.
Well, okay.
So
All
I mean,
right.
like I wonder if that has anything to do with like how it looks and when you're watching it a different way. But man, God, I hated that 3D gimmick. Like,
Yeah.
I saw.
Thank you, James Cameron. Thank you for subjecting.
It's one thing when it adds like depth, but there are a couple movies that like just really like leaned in to the 3D gimmick, like Piranha 3D. Like I loved that, just like how like it was such a B movie, and it was like, oh, stuff's coming at you,
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, like they're leaning into the 3D gimmick, but like 3D just for the sake of like, hey, we're gonna be able to charge these people some extra money to like. No, and I'm so glad that's not a thing anymore.
I can't remember the last time I saw something advertised as 3D. Like it's one of those things. It's a thing, and then like all of a sudden it's not.
I'm sure it's going to come back when
Avatar
2 rolls around in 20 years.
The studios realize, oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah,
Thing. But yeah, 3D trailers for Green Lantern and Transformers: Dark of the Moon were released.
What
that week?
Okay, what is Dark of the Moon? What number Transformers?
That's 3.
Is that?
That's the third one.
Okay, so I haven't seen anything past the second Transformers movie.
Dark of the Moon was the last one I watched.
Okay, all right, I take that back. I saw Bumblebee.
Okay, yeah, right.
So like, I feel like nobody counts Bumblebee as like a Transformers film because it's not a Michael Bay Transformers film, but. You know, yeah, in both of those movies, like we're gonna review one of them, but like, wow, both of those movies, 2011, folks, good times. You too can watch shit in 3D.
And we're bordering on an R rating now.
All right, I'm sorry, that's 2. That's 2.
That's actually your 3rd.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we can edit this out. We can bleep me if we need to. So.
All right. That's the news roundup from May 2011. Now here's your feature presentation. So, all right.
X-Men First Class again. You know, it's not an Aaron and Daniel podcast if the Holocaust doesn't come up. So 2 weeks in a row. Here we go, guys. Yeah. So that was one thing that I thought was very well done as far as like connecting this to the previous X-Men films.
Oh yeah,
was starting off like pretty much the exact same as the
it's a remake
one.
of that scene, almost verbatim.
So yeah, I just okay. So again, like with these movies, I remember when X-Men was very hot, they were talking about they were going to do all of these different origin films.
Yeah.
And I know that like obviously we got the Wolverine one. And then they were talking about doing a Magneto one, and they were also talking about doing a Storm origins, right? It was Storm. I believe those were the 3.
I don't remember Storm, but no,
Okay.
like I did look up. It was a recent article about the history of X-Men First Class, and yeah, the First Class was a result of there having once been a Magneto movie in development, and then they just fused them together.
And I'll say this, like I'm gonna like kind of just like cut straight to the core of this. Having seen this movie so many times and like watching it, enjoying it the first time, and you watch it again, I've realized that it's just Michael Fassbender does something amazing as Magneto. Lull that you don't really care about. Another great Magneto scene. Lull that you don't care about, and it's just like it's a Magneto movie.
No, the first hour is very. This is you're watching two different movies.
Yes, and I mean it still feels like that too. But like to me, this is just a flat out like Magneto movie more than anything else, with some like fairly cringy like on the nose bits with the rest of the cast.
So like we should like get into like so before this movie comes out. The last two X-Men movies we get are Last Stand, and then which is 06.
Okay.
And then you get 3 years later, X-Men Origins of Wolverine 09. Made money, made bank.
Yeah.
Not a good movie.
I don't hate that movie as much as everybody else.
Really?
Does. It's also the only before. Obviously, I didn't see Dark Phoenix, but before all this. And going forward, it was the only one that I didn't see at the movie theater because everybody was, talking about how horrible it was. And I ended up just watching it on video when it came out. And I didn't think it was that bad. Like, it was by no means, like, great, but I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed First Class. So, or not First Class, Last Stand. So, yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I that might be the most positive thing I've heard about X-Men's Origins of Wolverine in the last 12 years.
Oh wow! Is it Liv Schreiber? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yes.
He was good. He was good.
Again, it's one of those things where it's like I've gotten to the point now where it's just like even like really bad movies. I try to see like the shiny. So like his Sabretooth, and then in this film, like there's some great like portrayals. I think James McAvoy is fantastic. Mm-hmm. But again, like last week I was talking about how, for me, Thor's really made about like with Tom Hiddleston, like all of these X-Men movies that come from this timeline, like Michael Fassbender is like absolutely incredible. He's such an amazing actor. I think he might be like the best actor that continues to make movies that like aren't great and then continues to like overact in everything. Like just like take the source, take what he's given and just elevate it so much.
The last thing I can remember even seeing him in was the Assassin's Creed movie.
Okay.
Like it's been a minute since I saw him in something.
I watched his Macbeth fairly recently. I love him as David in Prometheus and Alien Covenant. I think he's one of like the most terrifying like sci-fi villains of all time in that. But man, him in this is so great, and it's like every scene as him as an adult, it's just like as he's like trying to hunt down Shaw, like that the scene in the bank when just that, and then the scene in the pub, not the pub, but the bar, and just like, man, like that to me, like nothing else in this movie like tops that part.
They're tense.
Yes.
They're legitimately like before you can get to like adult Magneto.
Yeah.
The scene with young what's his actual name?
Eric.
Okay. Eric with Shaw
with the mother.
Yeah.
The shot that's the one
when it.
Yes, that's where I was going to.
Like I distinctly remember seeing that for the first time, and then when it cuts and it shows you the operating, you're like, oh, whoa, boy!
You see everything else. It's almost like out of a horror movie. That's
absolutely.
That's almost like that. I'm sure you probably haven't seen it, but like Hostel.
Yeah.
Okay, but like you see this, and then there's just that angle change, and you see everything that it's.
If you want to convey the horrors of the Holocaust in one edit. That's it.
Yes. And I mean, oh man, just very, very unsettling. And man, like Kevin Bacon kills it in this movie too.
Okay, so I legitimately forgot when I sat down to watch this movie last week. I legitimately forgot Kevin Bacon was in it.
Okay.
Like oh yeah, I forgot Rose Byrne was in it. It's like it's been a very long time.
There's a lot of actors in this movie.
Yeah, this is one of those movies where you go back and you're like, Oh, this was the launch pad.
Yeah,
for a lot of people.
Yes, and then what's funny is like you see a lot of these actors and everything that ended up, as time went by, becoming a bigger deal, and their prosthetics, suddenly they're in them a lot less, and there's a lot less of them as the series continues.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about Nicholas Hoult and and Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, okay.
It's just like, we'll talk about it when we get to Days of Future Past. But I mean, that stuff's funny. Real quick though, I want to talk about the director. I want to talk about Matt.
I went through the whole movie. Like this is one of those cases of like passage of time. You just forget stuff. Like I just said, I forgot who was in it. Like I sat there watching the movie thinking that Bryan Singer directed it. But no, I thought, like, I said, oh yeah, Bryan Singer came back and directed this. Like, oh no, he just came up with like the story.
He's got a producing credit. It also has like the Usual Suspects thing on it.
Yeah.
But no, like Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah.
And so up to this point, I hadn't seen Layer Cake, but I saw Kick-Ass, and I absolutely loved Kick-Ass. I think that's one of the like better comic book movies from around this time too. And then seeing this and like pretty much everything that he's done past this, aside from the Kingsman sequel, I think
I was about to say the same thing.
I think are fantastic. He's one of my favorite directors, and Bryan Singer did come back and he ended up like directing the next two. I kind of wish we could have seen like what Matthew Vaughn could have done with this, like had they stuck with it to be just in this timeline and not like mix it with the other ones. That's honestly probably like the most depressing thing about all of this, is because it was such a great like they restarted it like I'm looking forward to seeing where all of this goes.
They only got one movie to themselves.
Yep.
And then that is one of those casualties of it. Like Matthew Vaughn, like he was originally supposed to direct X-Men 3. Like
he was supposed to take over for Singer.
Yeah, like he was lined up to do that, and then Vaughn, like, hold on. Oh.
But while he's looking this up real quick so we can get our facts straight, Nicholas Hoult, this is my first time seeing him. It's my first time seeing Jennifer Lawrence. It's my first time seeing Zoe Kravitz.
Like Zoe Kravitz. Like, oh, I didn't realize she was in that. Yeah.
So I mean, those are three. Oh, and then I'm gonna have to look up his name real quick. The brother from Get Out and everything. Caleb Landry Jones. My first time seeing him as well. I did get very excited when I saw Oliver Platt. He's one of my favorite character actors.
Shoot, which one's he?
Oliver Platt. He CIA agent.
Yeah.
And then. Yeah, I
meets an untimely end.
Yes, he does.
Okay, got it. Like, so this is from a Collider story back right after the anniversary of the movie, where Vaughn was originally supposed to direct X-Men Last Stand, but backed out at the last minute over creative differences. Here's a quote from Vaughn. I was totally excited about doing X3 and basically co-wrote the script with Simon Kinberg and Zach Penn. We did that in 6 days together. And then storyboarded the whole movie, revisited all the big sequences, and then, like an idiot, thought I didn't have enough time to make the film I wanted. So I had to leave. I sort of regretted that ever since. Then Fox rang me up and said, do you want a chance to reboot X-Men and put your stamp all over it? When they told me that, I thought they were joking at first, and then they told me it would happen in the 60s against the Cuban Missile Crisis as the backdrop. I thought, God, this sounds cool. Why not? Let's do it.
And, I mean, he knocked this out of the park because there was not a lot of like goodwill towards the X-Men franchise at this point.
No.
Again, like you said, Last Stand. I mean, honestly, at this point, I mean, X-Men's kind of like, it was cool to see it at the time, but I mean, it's a very slow like comic book movie. And then X2, I think is fun. I have not watched that one in a long time, but man, those last two, like X-Men: The Last Stand is one of the like. I guess they just, they can't do the Phoenix Saga. Like, they just...
When Singer went off to do Superman Returns, so, at the same time. So, but yeah, that was kind of like part of my thought process when I was going into this movie. Was this movie as good as I thought it was, or was how much goodwill was I giving it simply because of this Last Stand and X-Men Origins?
This movie's fantastic. So, I legitimately think, I mean, again, I will talk about this. It's weird because I know we're talking about this in the lens of 2011, but like with X-Men, I feel like it's one of the strong, like with Days of Future Past, I'll get into that and how I feel about that. I think that's probably the best like X-Men movie. But and then Logan is great because it has all of these incredible payoffs for all of these different movies, like Infinity War and Endgame. Like I feel like it's weird to be like, oh, this is my favorite one. It's just like, yeah, because it's got all of this history to it.
Mm-hmm.
But with First Class, it's its own thing. It's this new start, and like it's just very excited. And then like I said like there were a lot of cringy things. When I mean that, I'm like, oh, like you're gonna be Professor X and you're gonna be Magneto, and it's just like, okay. But then there are things that I like in it when it's just like, when he puts on Cerebro for the first time and Hank's like, can we shave your head? Like things like that. That's funny to me. Or it's the meme now with Magneto or Eric and Raven when she's in the bed, and it's just like, I want the real Raven, I want this, and then she turns into like Rebecca Romaine Stamos. I was just like, that's fantastic. Like what a great callback to movies so like things like that I thought were great. And then also real quick while we're talking about Mystique, Azazel's in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so like in the comic books, Azazel and Mystique are Nightcrawler's parents. So I thought that was
Okay.
interesting. Also, like them making because they're not doing like a comic book continuity in this.
Mm-hmm.
So them being like, we're gonna like lean into like making Mystique like a big deal of like our X-Men like film continuity and everything, and like tying her in with Charles. I thought that was very, very interesting at the time because that does not happen at all in the comic books.
Well, that's one thing I wanted to ask. Is like just how far divergent was this from what happens in the comics?
I'm not like a super like big X-Men like know-it-all. It's not like it's kind of a blind spot for me just because it's X-Men's one of those things where it's like there's so many different timelines. I mean, obviously like the Days of Future Past thing, and then there's just so many different X books and continuity is all very wonky. But most of my like X-Men knowledge comes from the X-Men cartoon that was on Fox Kids.
Oh, okay.
So that was like my intro to it. But no, I mean like I didn't go into this being like, oh man, they're being unfaithful to the comic books. I was just like, no, this is like a fresh start. We're going with this, like, and I thought it was great. The one thing that did confuse me though is January Jones is playing like Emma Frost, and like we're thinking that they're trying to like fix this timeline and make it all make sense, and then Emma Frost is like a kid in Wolverine Origins.
Oh, okay. She's it.
Yeah, like
okay.
Wolverine, like Wolverine's like Wolverine's girl in that movie. Like Emma Frost is her sister. Like when they're doing the escape in Wolverine Origins, like she turns into like the Diamond. Like that's Emma Frost. So like there's two like Emma.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah,
it's been a very long time since I've seen that movie.
And
so.
I remember like one of the biggest criticisms of this film when it came out was January Jones' performance, and yeah, she's not great in this movie.
Well, I'm just like let's. My main criticism is like let's just send January Jones in her underwear for the entire movie, which part of my lizard brain's like, sure, yeah. but like the adult me is like, why?
Why they're trying to sell this movie. I mean, like I'm not complaining. She's nice to look at and everything, but like it's not a great performance. So
watching this movie, I was kind of like waiting for like the first like bad decision of the movie. Like there has to be a flaw in this movie, and for me, it really outside of the Magneto stuff and the First Class stuff, feeling kind of separate movies at the beginning. Like the first like only real error for me is like we don't like once they got all the young mutants together at the CIA facility or whatever, we only get like 2 scenes with them together, and it's basically a party scene where they're naming each other and all that, and then Sebastian Shaw shows up,
I
kills one person, and then one defects.
That's the one that I have a big problem with, as far as like if I'm gonna be the big comic book like geek with this. Is like they killed Darwin, like the one that you're like not supposed to be able to kill at all. Like they killed Darwin, so that's the irk there. But I mean, I don't. The thing is that like you were saying, like, oh, what's the first like big mistake? And it's not that type of movie. It's to show like that divide between Xavier and Magneto, and I think it does that really well. Like it's just, and then I mean it builds the big like climactic scene at the end, and I mean really I don't feel like there's not the like, oh, this is like where it went wrong or anything. It was just like, no, like Magneto or Charles thought that he could.
Well, I'm not talking about mistake. I'm talking about creative mistake.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about like internal
okay.
logic of what's going on. I'm talking about like story decisions that were made. That's what I mean.
Okay.
Like I don't like that you got this group of kids together. They get 1.5 scenes as a group, partying, that giving each other nicknames. Which great scene, loved it. It reminded me of like the Thor's hammer sequence in Age of Ultron, where they're just like everyone's just like hanging out, having a good time. I like that. But then Sebastian Shaw shows up, kills, like you said, kills him, and then one defects.
Yes.
Like instantly, and like from that point on, you kill the one black character, and the person who defects is the other person of color on that. So now for the rest of the movie, you have a group of white heroes versus Sebastian Shaw and mostly people working with him who could be categorized as being of an ethnicity or color. That's the way that movie got framed.
Okay, interesting. I never saw it like that. So again, man, you just bring up all these different things. It's weird for me. Like I think also with this, if we're gonna get into the whole X-Men thing, I don't see that as like, oh, like this is the minority or anything like that.
I don't think it was a conscious thing. No, I don't think it was a conscious thing.
But with that, it's just like it's because like it like the way X-Men have always been portrayed is like they're like the outcast, like they're the minority group, like they're the ones being like persecuted.
Yeah.
And then it's just again, there's that whole Professor X is Martin Luther King, and then Magneto is Malcolm X.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I guess they go into that too because that's pretty much how it's portrayed first with like that group being X-Men, and then Shaw being Malcolm X, and then Magneto's just like, yeah, I completely agree with everything that you're saying, but you killed my mom, so I've got to kill you. While we were talking about, we kind of skipped forward on the them tracking everybody down and the Wolverine cameo.
The best use of the F word.
Yeah, so
ever.
So that was really funny because I remember the first time I was seeing it, I was making jokes about how can they make a X-Men movie without Hugh Jackman? Like I literally said that at the first showing, and then he shows up, and I'm just like, of course they can't do it. So, but I thought that was funny. I'd be remiss to not bring that up. But no, like, and then it's funny. It's like like you were saying, they're having all of this fun in this scene, and then Shaw shows up with his group, and you just realize that they're just teenagers because like they're absolutely like terrified of what's going on. Like Azazel comes in and just like completely wrecks shop. We were talking about like Oliver Platt getting taken out. I mean, it was just like dropping people from the sky and watching them pop. But I thought that was good, and then we go straight into a bunch of montages, like, which I thought worked well. Like if we're trying to like keep it on a pace and everything, I thought it was fun. Like that, it was very lighthearted for the most part. Like the Banshee bit, I thought was great. And then I mean, again, the scene with McAvoy and Fassbender where he's moving the dish. I thought that was a lot of fun. And then we get into we haven't gotten into like the weird Beast Mystique love angle that they get into with this film. A
The
little
two
bit.
blue characters.
Yeah, the two blue. So hey,
like I was like one of the notes I made was like they packed a lot into like the first 40 minutes of this movie. Like when Hank and Mystique go on their date together, that's like the 40-minute mark.
okay.
Like there's a lot in that first 30 minutes and change.
It says this movie's like just right over 2. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they pack a lot into this movie.
The thing that I forgot about like upon rewatch was the scene where they go to Russia and like go like get Emma to find out like where Shaw is at. Like I don't remember that scene. I didn't remember that scene when I was thinking about this movie, and so I guess it's just like, again, the whole January Jones thing, pretty forgettable. In that. Her going into diamond form, that didn't age real well. That doesn't look that great.
I don't get it. Like she's telepath or
yeah,
whatever,
but I mean,
and she
that's
turned to diamond.
That's just one of her comic abilities. Don't
overthink it.
Don't overthink it. So that's in the comics. So again, I don't know that much about Emma Frost.
So, but I'm like, what else do we got? Yeah, like I said, like I forgot like Kevin Bacon as the villain is, like I said, I'd forgotten he had been in it, but like watching it, oh no, he is very, very good.
Yes.
Like very much one of the most underrated comic book villains of the last 11 years.
I
Or
would
10 years.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And that's honestly like it completely makes sense why he was killed off in this, and how he, spoiler alert for a movie that's 10 years old, and how he is killed off. But I think that's one of the big problems with comic book movies in general is just like the villains are almost all one and dones.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have liked to have seen him maybe stick around, because I like the Hellfire Club's like a bigger deal in the comic books and everything, but you had to have Magneto ascend to get his Brotherhood going, and I don't. It's a pretty sweet lineup that he's got. What is his Riptide? Is that the guy's name? But I know nothing. I know nothing about him, like in the comics or anything. The dude doesn't talk and just like can shoot up air. I believe. Again, I'm having to look this up.
Who does
the long-haired guy suit?
Don't.
He just watched this movie and he doesn't even remember, guys.
It was last week.
It was last week. Yeah, Riptide. Alex Gonzalez is who played him. He's the pretty boy in Shaw's group.
Okay.
Who we never see or get mentioned again in any of them.
Well, no, like at the end when the group's breaking out Emma Frost from prison.
Yeah.
Like pretty much no one in that group comes back except for Fassbender.
All right.
Really?
See, now we're gonna jump forward. Now we're gonna jump forward a little bit with Aaron getting angry about this with the Days of Future Past and them getting killed off screen. You do see it as Mystique's going through, like when she breaks into Peter Dinklage's office and she's going through the records. You see like the autopsy of Azazel and Zoe Kravitz's character, who I cannot remember the name of it offhand. Yeah. And then there's, again, with how amazing Fassbender is, there's a monologue that he gives on the airplane where he's talking about like, where were you, Charles? And he's busting off all the people that died. And he mentions Emma, he mentions Azazel, and he mentions in the speech in Days of Future Past.
Okay.
So like they're brought up and they're mentioned, but like again, like as much as I like Days of Future Past, like this laid so much great foundation that they just were like, put to the wayside to have the original cast come back. And I really I would have liked to have seen more of this. This movie's so,
on both sides, even the good X-Men, however you want to, like the guy who could fly with his voice or whatever, he doesn't come back. He doesn't come back. The guy who threw red discs.
Well, I mean,
came back.
He comes back.
He does.
He's in X-Men Apocalypse.
Oh, okay. I didn't see Apocalypse.
That's Alex Summers. That's
okay.
Scott Summers, Cyclops' brother.
Okay.
So No, it's just one of those things where it's like this movie laid down such great groundwork, great casting. Like as much as I'm praising Fassbender right now, like James McAvoy is Professor X, and like seeing that like the evolution of him is like when he's like going and picking up girls at the bar and busting out the same like pickup lines on all of them. It's like great, and then you just see him like mature through the movie as well, and it's just like. God, like I was so excited, like watching this movie in 2011, just being like, oh man, I cannot wait for the next one of these. Like it was exciting and fresh, and again, like we were talking about the the Marvel movies. It was like, are they going to be able to pull this off? And it's just like this is what we used to get back in the day for having some like good faith in comic book movies at the time.
It is. You can't look at it one way. Like they went from First Class and went straight into Endgame with Days of Future Past.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, it was cool when they did it too because like I know you're a big Abrams fan. I was like, they Star Trek themselves. Mm-hmm. Is what they did. They were like, this timeline existed and this timeline existed, and we finished the first one, and now we're doing this to. Before like all these other actors and everything get too old, we can do this real quick. We can give them the rub, and then we can move forward. The problem was that then they just didn't do anything afterwards. Mm-hmm. Like, as much as I'm going to complain about Days of Future Past, like just kind of throwing a lot of the groundwork that this movie threw at it, like it's still pretty respectful for a lot of things. But man, like Apocalypse was just so bad. Like I mean like again, like it's just so exciting. I remember seeing the post-credit scene in Days of Future Past and being just like, hell yes, they're bringing Apocalypse in. Can't wait. It's going to take place in the 80s. Sweet. And I mean, like, that's another thing that they didn't do with all of this. I made the joke on the last podcast where it's just like, it's the 60s. We're going to see him age. Here we go. He's cutting me off real quick.
So, like, one thing I forgot about in this movie is, like, Hank does tests on Mystique. And
yes.
He tells her, the way whatever's been done to her genes, she'll look like a teenager when she's 40.
Yeah.
So that was their loophole.
Well, that's fine, but there's also, every other character in this to not, age at all, because I don't know, in 30 years when this movie is supposed to be going on, by the end of it, they're supposed to look like Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart in, the late 90s. So I'm throwing.
Hey, remember at the beginning of X-Men, it says in the
near future. Yeah.
So you don't know when those movies actually take place.
I mean, I kind of do because I don't know. Eric is a Holocaust survivor, so I'm just saying he's a certain age at that point. He's probably like what 13 or 14 when he's in the concentration camp. So
well, that's one thing. Like the gap between the prologue that was 1944, and when we flash forward, it's like 1962, and I'm like, I don't know about that.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say other than just like I really like this movie. It holds up very well. It's very disheartening knowing what came afterwards with it.
Except for Days of Future Past.
Yes. But again, like, even what I was saying, like, I love Days of Future Past, and you couldn't remember these characters coming back, and it's just like,
Well, I didn't see Apocalypse.
Okay, no, but you were just like, Azazel doesn't come back, Emma doesn't come back, Zoe Kravitz's character doesn't come back, and it's just like, no, because they're pretty much just like killed off screen. Mm-hmm. But I mean, at least they're mentioned, and then like Banshee, like they mentioned. Oh, man, this just shows how much I've watched Days of Future Past and X-Men First Class as well. But they talk about like the Vietnam War and a lot of the people getting drafted with that. So I mean, that's like, okay, well, there's
I'd like to see that movie, like
mutants in Vietnam. Okay. Yeah, so. Oh, but
I do think like when this movie came out, there was some like, I think at least I was. Some people like were naive about let's see how they sync up with the first movie. And we should have known like, and at that point they weren't going to.
No,
as soon as you made like Mystique and Professor X like, I mean, connected, like there's no way that they were gonna.
they were
even try to sync up. With
they were
movie.
doing their best. I mean, Mystique and Eric always had a thing in the other movies, so like they kind of lean into that a little bit with this, and they do in Days of Future Past as well. But man, it's just one of those things where like I watch this movie and I really enjoy it, but then unfortunately you have that. I can't watch it through that 2011 lens anymore because I know what happened to it, and it's just like, man, they really dropped the ball. And since we're talking about X-Men now, and we're getting closer to like moving on to the next segment in this, I'm excited to see what happens with X-Men in the MCU. Like
at some point,
I'm curious what happens with that, with the casting decisions. They brought back J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. I would absolutely love it if we could get possibly Michael Fassbender coming back as Magneto. Like, I think
put old age up.
You don't even need to do that. Just like have him, just bring him back as Magneto. Like he's like, as when we're talking about like just absolutely like perfect casting, like Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, or Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, or Christopher Reeves as Superman. Like Michael Fassbender as Magneto is so great. And he had so much depth to the character, and it was just
like he's a guy like he walks on camera like, oh, okay,
yes,
this is going to be a scene.
And even like as bad as those other X-Men movies are, like he's amazing in them. And it's like I say, it's like I can still look at the bright spots of movies, and every single one I watch with him, he's one of those. And also, since we're talking about like Matthew Vaughn and what is it, Evan Peters? Is that the guy who plays Quicksilver in the second one?
Yeah.
Yes, Evan Peters, Quicksilver, and everything. Also in Kick-Ass. Just like like going full circle, and then they made the joke in WandaVision where like he comes in as Quicksilver.
That they gave us so much hope with that, and then they're like,
but I mean, but it was great, but and then they make the Kick-Ass illusion and everything. It's just going full circle with the whole Matthew Vaughn X-Men First Class and into Days of Future Past. But I don't know. What do you rate this movie? Like,
this is a solid 8.5.
Okay. Well, I mean, we gave letter grades for the other one.
We did?
Yeah, we gave. I gave Thor a B, and you gave it a B minus.
This is A minus.
Okay, I'm gonna agree with you on this.
Like this is a movie like years will go by and you'll remember, yeah, that was a good movie. That was a good movie. But then like you sit down and you watch. You forget how good the movie was.
Yes.
And I think that's very much the case with First Class. You have Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix. That stuff can like influence your thoughts on it. But like no, this was a very, very good movie, especially after two just horrible, or at least in my opinion, two just bad movies.
So I want to try something. You know how they talk about like the Star Trek movies where it's like
every
even ones are bad.
Yeah.
Like how does this work with X-Men real quick?
Well, the first two were great.
But I mean,
too good, too bad. Too good.
Is that what it is? Okay. So it's X-Men. So it's X-Men 2.
Good.
Okay. Are we counting the Deadpool movies in this as well?
Well, they're technically X-Men movies.
Okay. I'm gonna have to look up my phone. So it was X-Men 2.
Yes.
X-Men 3. Last Stand. Days of Future Past.
No.
X-Men First Class.
1, 2, good. Yeah. Then you get 3. Then you get Origins Wolverine. Then you get First Class.
Yes. Then you got. Then it was the Wolverine.
The Wolverine.
Yes, which is not
2/3 of a good movie.
I do not hate that movie. So
2/3.
Yeah, and then Days of Future Past. So man, it's weird. It's very strange. I'm gonna have to look into this a little bit more onto like the breakdown of them. But yeah, just fun times.
Yeah, like I never saw Apocalypse. I never saw Dark Phoenix.
I think I saw Apocalypse twice at the movie theater. Like
I just know I saw I saw the trailers for Apocalypse, and I got very strong Last Stand vibes.
I was so like, I love Oscar Isaacs as an actor, so I was just like, X-Men, it's Oscar Isaacs as Apocalypse, it's gonna be sweet. Not so much, but again, the Fassbender scenes were fantastic. So, at the end of the day, it's a A- from us, even with the 2021 goggles on right now. So,
it's a great movie.
it is.
So, all right, time to get back in the time machine.
We just hit 88 miles an hour. We're back in 2021.
What have you been watching lately, Aaron?
What have I been watching lately? Man, I've been moving. And I've been working a lot. So the last thing I've been watching, honestly, when I'm not watching things for this show, I'm catching up on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm watching that a lot right now. I know that they just wrapped the latest season, so I'm excited about that. And then, it's just unfortunately been a lot of real world stuff for me. Mm-hmm. What about you? What have you been watching?
I watched A Few Good Men for the first time.
Okay. Did you handle the truth?
It was a very good movie.
Were you on the wall?
Yes, I was on that wall. It was the first movie where I legitimately didn't like Tom Cruise's character.
Interesting.
Like, for at least the first hour, I was like, I did not like Tom Cruise's character. But it was a very good legal drama. Aaron Sorkin did a very good job of making you feeling conflicted about who you're rooting for or against. It was good.
Man.
So,
yeah, it's so cliche now because everybody knows it, but that scene in the courtroom at the end of it, like, just Jack Nicholson is so fantastic.
He's only in like 2 scenes of the entire movie.
I know, but it's one of those things where it's just like, that's what you remember. And there's a lot of movies like that where somebody's only in it for a certain amount of time. They're the people that end up stealing the movie. And he did that.
Okay.
So
I also watched Behind Enemy Lines for the first time with
I had Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson, Gene Hackman.
I haven't seen that movie in a really long time. I remember not being a huge fan of it. And then what's funny, since we were talking about wrestling earlier, I'm pretty sure all of the related Behind Enemy Lines sequels all star WWE wrestlers.
Really?
Yeah.
There was like two sequels.
Yeah. So,
but it's a weird. I liked it. It's a very weird movie because it's about the end of the Bosnia conflict.
It came out. When did it come out?
November.
I was in middle school.
November 30th, 2001.
Okay, I was in middle school. Wow.
No, but So November of 2001, the invasion of Afghanistan is happening.
Okay.
So they're dropping this action movie about the end of the Bosnia conflict. This it's mid-90s thing. Yeah. In 2001, when we're going to war in Afghanistan, so it was a weird relic.
It's weird that got dropped because we're if we want to go back and we're doing all these random catch-ups and talking about the past. I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger had Collateral Damage that was coming out. It was supposed to come out shortly after 9/11, but it ended up getting pushed back because it had to deal with terrorist attacks. So it's weird to think about all the movies that changed because of that. So I know we never got another True Lies movie because of that. I'm still bitter. James Cameron had to go and make Avatar.
They're making a TV show
of True Lies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Damn. They make TV shows of everything. They did the Taken prequel and just
mm-hmm.
There's certain things that just don't, and it's probably gonna be a network TV show too, isn't it?
Hold on. CBS.
Yeah. See, nah, not a fan. Not a fan. Hard pass.
Yeah. Yeah. That was first announced in February that they're making.
Oh, MGK and
from Matt Nix, McG, and James Cameron. James Cameron is involved on some.
James Cameron being involved with it doesn't mean it's good. Remember when he told all of us that we should go watch Terminator Genesis?
I don't like the thing you said about you don't hate X-Men Origins Wolverine as much as everyone else.
Yeah.
I was okay with Genesis. I was
Hold
okay
on
with
real
it.
quick. This again goes to the whole like there's age difference and growing up with different things because and that's one thing that I'm very interested again with talking about this is it's just like when did you see it? When did you grow up with certain things?
Yeah.
Because like what spoiler alert for something we're going to be talking about in 2011 or for this season, we're going to be talking about the Jason Momoa Conan movie. I grew up on the Conan movies. I assume Daniel did not grow up with Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan movies.
No.
So he's going to have a different look on this. And for me, Terminator 2 is legitimately like my number 2 movie of all time.
Okay.
So, and I don't think that there's been a good Terminator since then. I didn't hate Dark Fate. Like how you feel.
No, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, so like how you feel about like Genesis, but man, there have only been a certain amount of times where it's just like I watch a movie and then I immediately have to go and watch like what it's like a remake of or a sequel of immediately afterwards just to get the taste out of my mouth. And that was one of them. It was Genesis. So yeah, James Cameron being like aboard on something, although he's an absolutely incredible director and I like the majority of things that he's done, like that doesn't excite me because at the end of the day, I know he's probably just trying to cash a paycheck.
Oh no, I don't like. I do think his name's just on it.
Yeah.
I don't think he's too busy making movies that should have came out 8 years ago.
He's making a comedy?
Avatar. Like making a movie. He's too.
Oh, I know. I know, but that's my like my bit about sequels to comedies. Is they always come out way too late.
Oh,
like,
okay.
They don't strike when the iron's hot. Like the only one in my mind, I don't know if it's ever going to come up on this, is like the Hangover trilogy. Like they hit, and then they were just like, okay, we're going to cash in on this, and we're like, bam, bam, make 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And they made 3 Hangover movies in very quick succession.
Yeah.
And then like. How long was it between like Zoolander and Zoolander 2 or Joe Dirt or Dumb and Dumber 2?
More than a decade.
Yeah.
Well,
so I mean, like that's a problem. Like when you have a hot property, if you want to do something, like cash in on it. And is like we're not going to talk about Avatar because I'm pretty sure it came out before.
That was late 2010.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
The ride though at Disney World, fantastic. If you get the chance to ride that thing at Animal Kingdom, do it. Again, I'm just gonna rub it in Daniel's face while I can. I'm going to Disney World at the end of the month, and not only am I going to Galaxy's Edge, I'm going to Animal Kingdom, and I'm gonna fly on some banshees. So,
but yeah, True Lies. McGee's a choice.
Did he direct? He directed Salvation, right?
Okay. Okay, so like staying on Terminator, I'm indifferent to the first one. It's just not my vibe for me.
Okay.
I love the second one.
Okay.
I think the second one's great.
You're not a big horror fan.
No,
though.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not.
So
I'm not.
that makes sense because like much like Alien and Aliens, I mean, obviously Terminator is a James Cameron property, but he directed Aliens, and Alien and Terminator to me are horror films.
Okay.
And then the second one of each of those is an action film. So I understand you liking that more.
No, I love the second one. I'm one of the few people that likes the third one.
It's a remake of 2. I mean, it's for all intents and purposes, it's a remake of 2. I don't hate 3. I do not hate 3.
I think them going through with Judgment Day happening is.
I liked that twist. It was nice. I just you could have just ended it at 2, and that's honestly like one of the biggest problems is like people are just they'll take a great thing and just run into the ground and just. So we're gonna be talking about that, I'm sure, with some properties on here. So
Salvation, garbage. Like that, Salvation was a garbage movie.
Well, that's because it has Sam Worthington in it, who is quite possibly like my least favorite actor of all time. I don't know if since I don't know how many movies we're going to talk about him. He was in Clash of the Titans remake, which Clash of the Titans was a movie that I grew up on. Then he was in Avatar, and then he's in Terminator, and he's literally playing the same character in every single one. Where he's like, I'm half man, half whatever this is supposed to be. I'm stuck between 2 worlds. I don't know which one it is. And it's just like, you're not entertaining at all. Like, oh man, like Sam Worthington attached to a film is just like pretty much an immediate pass for me.
I can't remember the last thing he was in.
He was in some Arnold Sabotage with Arnold. Was the last one I saw.
Don't remember that.
Yeah, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger, Joe Manganiello, Sam Worthington, Terrence Howard. Wasn't bad.
Okay.
So.
All right. So moving on to current day items.
Current day items.
So, the Cassian Andor series is finished filming.
Yes, I'm pumped.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about that when we get to Rogue One. I'm sure that
in 10 years.
Yes. But I'm very excited. I absolutely loved Rogue One. I thought he was a very interesting character. I'm all about having more like Alan Tudyk as K2SO in my life, so I'm very excited about that. And just it's going to be the first Star Wars series that we get. Well, second because the Boba Fett series, right?
Yeah, well, that was going to be the next. Okay, that was going to be the next. Yeah,
but I mean, like, there's such like high hope right now, and like because of the Mandalorian right now and what Disney Plus did with that. So like Star Wars TV right now, people are excited about, and hopefully it doesn't go the way of X-Men First Class full circle where it starts off great and then just goes to, But I'm very excited about that. How about you?
Oh no, I'm with you. I loved Rogue One. Yeah. Like of the Star Wars movies under the Disney umbrella, it's Rogue One, Solo. Everything else. Okay,
see, like we look at that, like we agree on Star Wars right now, which if Daniel and I, doesn't happen very often. So the fact that we're both about Rogue One and Solo, see, like,
hey, we agree on we agree on the original trilogy.
Okay,
we agree on 2 of the 5 Disney movies. So we're like 60%. We're batting. I don't know.
There we go. But I'm excited to see more of like the Star Wars universe, like not necessarily deal with like the Jedi. And so I'm very interested in that. And then also seeing it around that time period, because obviously we're seeing Star Wars through the Mandalorian post Return of the Jedi. It's going to be very cool to see Star Wars like post Revenge of the Sith, pre A New Hope. Like I'm excited about that and seeing like the more like shady shady underbelly of the rebellion at that time.
I'm curious, like, I think this will probably just be a 1-season show.
Maybe.
If it's not, okay, we'll see where it goes. I want to see like how close it rubs up to Rogue One, like gets into that, because I think the Cassian show is going to be like the stealth show. Everyone wants the Boba Fett show. Everyone wants Mandalorian season 3. Everyone wants the Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
Yeah,
I can't freaking wait for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. But I think, and this is just my hypothesis, the Cassian show is basically going to be kind of serve as like a backdoor introduction for stuff that we're going to be like seeing like in the Ahsoka Tano show and stuff. I think they might be introducing the live action concepts of certain characters from like the animated series.
Yep, I like that.
So Sabine Wren, characters like that.
What is his name? Saw Gerrera. I'm curious if he's going to show up in this as well. The
actor who plays Cassian, he says we're going to see familiar faces.
Okay.
So I think that means we could see Mon Mothma, who we saw in Rogue One.
I'm sure we're going to see her. I'm sure we're going to see more stuff with the Rebellion. I'm honestly more interested in seeing this and having it, because you all think like squeaky clean, like Rebellion. Like I want to see some of like the not so great things that they did during this time period.
Saw Gerrera.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like he's not like part of like that Rebellion. Like he's one of his own things, but they talk about like, there's that bit in Rogue One where Cassian is talking like the things that he had to do.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see if we get into that or if it's going to try to like, whitewash it.
Well, like this is a show you can't really spoil the outcome because Rogue One exists. Yeah. So like I feel like they got a lot of leeway to a degree to what they can do. But I'm like we don't know exactly when it's going to come out.
No.
Like all we've seen is has been like a behind the scenes reel that came out at some point early last year.
Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna probably drop at some point in 2022.
Oh yeah.
So, but we do know one thing that's gonna be dropping soon. Boba Fett.
The book of Boba Fett.
The book of Boba Fett.
December 29th.
Yes.
A late Christmas gift.
So I watched The Mandalorian season 2 finale. It did not stay for a post-credits scene because I was still in awe of what I had just witnessed. And my friend texts me and it's just like, so Book of Boba.
Actually, yeah, I was kind of in the same position of you. I watched it.
Yeah.
And then I think I stayed up till like 2 in the morning to watch it. And then I went to bed.
Yeah.
And then I woke up like, son of a...
Yeah, so I had a friend who was like, Book of Boba. And I was like, yeah, cool, whatever. Like, cool. Thinking it was like a comic book thing. Not being like, oh man, he just took out Bib Fortuna. And just like, I'm also very glad that like he's back. Like they brought that actor back to play Boba. So
regardless of your opinions on like the prequels, like as a whole, there was great casting in those movies. There was great elements that have been built upon in the years since through the Clone Wars cartoon and now even Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. Like things are getting second shots.
Yes, and I mean more so than like I think this might be another thing too, and I don't know how Daniel feels about it. Star Wars television, just in general, I feel like I'm not counting like books, obviously, but aside from like the original trilogy, I think Star Wars television is like the best Star Wars. Like,
right now, yeah.
Like I think like the Clone Wars cartoon was amazing. Like Mandalorian was absolutely fantastic, and I'm excited about this. And you know, Robert Rodriguez, he's one of my favorite directors, and so I'm curious. Or I'm not curious. I'm very excited to see like Boba Fett just like go out and be a badass. Like there was that episode in Mandalorian season 2 where he's just like wrecking all of those stormtroopers. Yeah. And it's like, you know, I'm excited to see it.
After 30, 40 years of being teased, Boba Fett gets to have his due.
Yeah, I mean, I for the longest time I was not a Boba Fett guy. But okay, so here's something funny that you and I have never discussed on the catching up. I was never a Boba Fett guy.
Neither was I.
It was one of those things where I knew what happened to him, but like it's like, oh hey, here's this character. He looks super cool. So everybody that like grew up in that era like loves Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And it's because he was the cool looking character, and then he ended up not doing anything, and then he got like killed pretty much like without really doing anything in the movies. And then I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, why were people so big about this guy? And then me growing up when I did, it's just like, man, Darth Maul's a cool looking character. He's awesome. Duel of the Fates is the shit. Sorry, that's 4. I'm perfectly fine taking my 4th one to talk about how great Duel of the Fates is.
Time to put in the jar.
Yep. There we go. Duel of the Fates. Anyway, absolutely amazing. But I mean, he pretty much is the same way that, you know, Boba Fett is. He's this awesome looking character that gets killed like super quick. Again, thankfully, you know, Clone Wars and Rebels like flesh that out. But I mean, I get it, and I'm very excited about the Book of Boba. It's just a mini series, right? It's like, did they say how many episodes it's going to be?
I've not heard an episode count.
I imagine 6 to 8.
I think I'm gonna go 6.
Okay,
that's my main.
So that will take it into February.
Probably.
Okay. So I'm excited about that for sure. Be a nice post Christmas gift to all of us.
Well, no, I agree. I think Star Wars TV is the thing that's after the disappointment of Rise of Skywalker. I think Mandalorian and that all that stuff, the Clone Wars, Bad Batch, whatever. That's the stuff that's keeping the fire burning.
I watched the first episode of Bad Batch. I still need to watch the second one. Or I still need to finish that season. I very much enjoyed the 4 episodes that they did in the last season of Clone Wars, and I enjoyed the pilot episode of the first season.
The season's too long. Like,
is it?
Oh, it did not need to be as long as it is. Like,
The 22, like Clone Wars?
I think it's 18.
Okay.
It was still too many. But no, there's great stuff on the show for sure. But yeah, it's
I feel like anytime you do a season that's more than 13 episodes, there's going to be some filler. So I feel like 13 is like the cap for seasons.
I agree. But like, so yeah, we're getting Boba Fett in January. At some point next year, we're getting the Kenobi series.
Yes.
Which, like, I can't say how much I'm excited for that show.
I'm excited to see it, but I'm also like, everybody's talking about like a possible like meetup with Obi-Wan and like Vader.
Okay,
and
like
just
the way they announced it was people like, he's going to show up in the suit. No, he's not going to show up.
I want, like, honestly, this is, to me, it will be like top tier if I just get a flashback of like Ewan McGregor in the Clone Wars wearing like the clone armor outfit that, you know, to me, that will make it. And I hope it's Hayden Christensen doing flashbacks. When people were talking about like Obi-Wan and Vader having a fight.
No, I think my theory is that, because I believe the show takes place like 8 years after Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
Like, so I think it will focus on Obi-Wan on some level, like still dealing with like the emotional like trauma,
PTSD.
Yes, of everything that happened in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
I think with them bringing in Hayden Christensen, he will be having conversations either through the Force or just with himself. I think Hayden Christensen will be his consciousness.
I want flashbacks. I want Clone Wars flashbacks.
We could get that. We could, but I do think that Hayden Christensen will be like this thing that it's his consciousness.
Okay.
I think that's what they're going to be doing.
I'm excited about it for sure.
Because like at least like years ago, before they rebooted the expanded universe, there was a book that came out called Kenobi by John Jackson Miller, which is like one of my top 5 Star Wars books. But it dealt with this. It dealt with Obi-Wan like immediately after he got to Tatooine, just like dealing with everything he had just experienced, like coping with it and all this, and it was like kind of established that when he left Anakin on Mustafar, he thought he was dead. Like he left him to die.
But he couldn't finish the job.
Yeah.
So,
and he didn't discover until much later that he had survived, and Vader was still walking around in the suit and all. So one thing I'm curious is how they'll approach that. Does he know that Vader is still out and about? So
I think it'd be very interesting to see if we get the revelation of him finding out Anakin's still alive.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested to see that portrayed on screen.
So, but no, like as a prequel defender, like this show means a lot to me. Like 15, 16, 17 years later, it's
prequels are, if you lay out the story of the prequels and what it is, it's a fantastic story. Execution, not necessarily there, and it's been fleshed out fantastically by the Clone Wars. So, like, if you watch it in that vein, it's great, and realizing that they're not great, like, standalone films, but, like, bullet points to get you from here to there, it's a lot easier for me as someone who didn't like the prequels when they first came out. I enjoyed them a lot.
There's
more.
only so much you can do in 2 hours. So,
yeah.
I mean, like, what Dave Filoni did with the Clone Wars has been phenomenal.
For sure. So, just give me more pod racing.
Okay. We're getting a spinoff of WandaVision.
Yeah. I don't really have much to say about this other than, like, why. Like, I mean, like, you texted me and you told me, and it was like, yeah, of course, because, you know, she was popular and everything, but I'm just like, there's not a story that we necessarily, like, need to get out of this. I feel like there's other things and different avenues that we can go down and it's just like, how many people are gonna be like? Is there a group of people that like want to see this?
Yeah. I mean, she was incredible.
She
on that
was. She was great.
I want to see the character again.
So, but like doing what? What do you want to see her do?
I don't know. Like that's up to the creators.
What you said you want to see her again?
Well,
what do you want to see her
do? I think there'll be like flashbacks to what she was up to from the character's name. I can't.
Agatha.
Agatha all along. Okay. What Agatha was up to from the time she killed her fellow witches.
So we just need more prequels. Is that? Because that's worked out so well for Marvel so far. Sorry, I'm taking a shot at Black Widow. It wasn't that. So
we're getting the Rocky IV director's cut.
I guess this is going to be like the lead-in to Creed to try to make it like a little bit more serious. I know like Rocky IV is a lot of people's favorite Rocky film, and as much as I love, No Easy Way Out and Hearts on Fire, it's aside from 3, it's probably my like least favorite Rocky film, just because I don't count Rocky V as existing. And seeing as how he didn't make any mention of it when he did Rocky Balboa, I don't think he believes that Rocky V exists in the Rocky canon. So my biggest problem in general is you watch Rocky, the first one, and you just see how absolutely mangled Rocky's face is and Apollo's face is at the end of their fight. And then look at him at the end of Rocky IV when he fights Ivan Drago, and he does not look anywhere near as like mangled and beat up as he did in the first Rocky film. So that's, but they stopped being that and they became like different things. But hey, you know what? Rocky ended the Cold War on Christmas in Rocky IV. So by all means, I'll watch it. I love the Rocky series, but
yeah, you can see that in theaters on November 11th.
Okay.
So like I've only seen basically each Rocky movie just once, pretty much.
Okay, so Rocky is like legitimately in my top 5 like movies of all time. Like I love the first Rocky movie. I think Rocky Balboa is fantastic, and I've enjoyed the Creed films. So I think this is one of those things where they're trying to show a little bit more serious going into it. Because like, hell, man, Rocky's got a robot in Rocky IV, so I'm pretty sure that robot's not going to be making it.
Oh no! Like Sylvester Stallone has said, like the robot's going in the trash.
Okay, so it's one of those things. He was a guy I remember. We're probably not going to talk about it. I can't. My years are mixed up. I know, like I absolutely loved Rocky Balboa. I thought it was like a great way to end like the Rocky franchise before Creed came around, and then he did Rambo. Not the latest one, not Last Blood, but the Rambo film that he did. And I thought that was a fantastic way to end the Rambo franchise. I think he's just one of those guys who he wants to end things, more on his terms. So I'm very curious to see how this goes. Just don't take Hearts on Fire or No Easy Way Out of this, and I'll be good.
So we have some breaking news a little bit.
Oh shit! That's number 5.
Catching up with Aaron and Daniel. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Will Poulter to play Adam Warlock in the next installment of Marvel franchise.
Interesting.
Yeah. I recognize Will Poulter. The only thing I think I can remember him from... Shoot. What was that movie he was in? Best known for roles in The Revenant and Detroit.
Really? Not Jennifer Aniston?
That was the one I was thinking of. Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of.
Okay.
That movie, which I
don't know. I just think of him.
Singing, the Millers.
Yeah. We're the Millers.
We're the Millers.
I just think of him singing TLC Waterfalls. That's a very interesting casting decision. Again, like I absolutely love James Gunn. I'm curious to see what they do with him as Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock was teased at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, so.
He was? It's been a while.
He was. The post-credit scene. The Sovereign. He's in the egg.
Okay.
again, Guardians of the Galaxy is like was my book for a long time. Like before the movies, at one point I almost had Rocket and Groot tattooed on me before that movie came out. So in hindsight, I'm very glad that that didn't happen. But yeah, a very interesting casting decision. I'm curious to see where they go with it. But we have the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special coming out before that, though. So
There's a Christmas special?
there's a Christmas special. It's gonna be on Disney Plus.
Is it live action?
Yeah, it's live action.
Okay. I don't remember hearing about this. Okay.
That's me breaking some news to Daniel right there.
Okay.
So
Huh. All right. So I think that's enough for the news.
oh no, there's one more thing that we have to talk about because he sent me a YouTube link to
Okay.
the Back to the Future musical.
Did you
So-
know this existed?
I did not know that this existed, but after seeing it, I thought it looked a lot of fun. Like I'm all about it like the production value looked absolutely insane. It looked like something that I would really like to have been a part of. 10 years ago. So
As long as I don't have to sing, I would have loved to have been a part of it.
I mean, yeah, I'm curious to see like what the songs are. I'm curious to see if they're on Spotify. But
Well,
yeah,
just make sure that the cast sings "Power of Love."
I mean that's on there.
Is it?
So one thing that's funny is the first movie that I went to like post like quarantine COVID. The first time I went to the movie theater, my brother rented out a movie theater for his wife, my sister-in-law's birthday, and it was
Similar. For my sister's birthday, my parents rented out a theater for Wonder Woman 84.
Okay, I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, mine was Back to the Future.
Cool.
So, like, I was just a year behind you in 1985.
You're ahead of me.
Yeah, you were a year behind. Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm bad with numbers, as you can tell. We're still in 2011, right? No. And so we watched Back to the Future, and my girlfriend had never seen it, so that was interesting.
What?
But I don't. So with Back to the Future, I don't remember the scene where like his books came in.
Books.
Like the dad's books come in at the end of it.
Oh,
It's like, oh hey, here we go. Like I don't remember that
really?
in the movie. Like I feel like that was like an added scene, an extended edition or something. It's like that was never in any of the things. But I mean, I was always watching it on like TBS, like so that interested me for sure. And then I saw the bit where like they're late, and then it was another trailer for the Back to the Future musical, and they have Doc Brown meet Doc Brown, and he's just like, he'll be all right, giving him like the whole seal of approval. Christopher Lloyd,
Oh.
seen him. So,
Oh. Okay.
yeah, he's like the doorman for the musical. So
Oh.
I mean, like it'd be something to see. Like it'd be cool to
Like
see.
I'll admit, like when I watched the trailer, like I was like halfway through it. It's like I thought it was like a parody. I didn't think it
Oh,
was.
you didn't think it was real?
I didn't think it was real.
No, man. The parody's Rick and Morty. So I'm just waiting for that Back to the Future Rick and Morty crossover. So
All right. But yeah. If you're, I think it's probably in like New York or something.
it's in London.
It's in or London. Okay. Yeah. Go see the Back to the Future musical in London.
Yeah.
If you're there, that would be that'd be an experience. That would definitely be an event. So, all right. So episode 2.
Episode 2 is in the books,
Episode
guys.
2 of Catching Up is in the books. Our next movies double feature. So this will be interesting. J.G. Abrams' Super 8
Yes.
and Martin Campbell's the guy who directed GoldenEye and Casino Royale.
I did not know this.
Directed Green Lantern.
I did not know that. Wow. That was a legitimate wow. That wasn't just me being like, wow. Man, Casino Royale is my favorite Bond movie. I still need to see the new one.
I was supposed to see it tonight, but my plans just got canceled
Oh.
while we were recording this.
Boo.
So.
Yes, this is going to be interesting because I've only seen both of these movies once, and I was not really a fan of either one. So
No, I'm the opposite. Liked one, hated the other.
okay,
So
this will be interesting for sure.
all right. So yeah, Super 8, Green Lantern. You can email the podcast at catchuppodcast2011@gmail.com.
Yes. Follow us on Twitter at catchingup2011. And we also are putting these up on YouTube. And if you would like, share, and subscribe, it would help us out a lot. So eventually we'll start, maybe putting our faces on there. It's where you're not just seeing the poster of the movie that we're talking about. But right now we're just still getting things going. So
but yeah, Catching Up 2011 on Twitter. Follow me at Dan McFadin on Twitter.
You don't have to follow me on Twitter. So AB Cohorst on Twitter. But guys, seriously, I and Daniel both really appreciate you checking this out. And there will be, the third episode. We're very excited about it. And this has been a lot of fun. And I'm very curious to see what happens on episode 3.
Yeah, this is it. This has been Catching Up with Aaron and Daniel, episode 3. Signing off. Talk to you, or see you.
You'll hear us next time. Bye, guys.